The MCU has been on shaky ground lately, and when Marvel announced a binge drop for a character most general audiences have never heard of, the red flags were everywhere. I went into Wonder Woman expecting a disaster, but what I actually got was one of the most creative swings the franchise has taken in years. No expectations, no hype, and a dumped release schedule. On paper, Wonder Man looked like a project Marvel wanted to bury. But after sitting through all 8 episodes, I have a lot to say about why the trailers got this one wrong. Welcome back to The Dark Sun. I'm Sean, and today we're going to be reviewing Wonder Man, the newest entry in the MCU. Now, going into this, I had no expectations. The trailers made me feel nothing, and I wasn't very familiar with the character. It releasing all at once did not inspire confidence that it was going to be very good, so how did it turn out? Well, first we'll talk about the good. This is a really well-made show, both from a technical standpoint and from the performances. Sir Ben Kingsley kills it in his scenes as Trevor. The amount of range he has is insane, and I was shocked to learn he was 82. And it's interesting to see how the character has come from his Mandarin roots in Iron Man 3 to his guide role in Shang-Chi to a failed actor here. And Yahya Abdul-Mateen does awesome work as a character who is trying to mask what's underneath so he can have a normal life. Having these two together does more than provide humor. Trevor is a foil to Simon. On one hand we have a struggling actor, and on the other hand we have a failed actor with decades of experience. Trevor is the mentor that Simon needs. Having a waiver that every actor has to sign to prove that they don't have superpowers is just the kind of thing I'd expect Hollywood to do in the real world. But in universe it makes sense considering the Sokovia Accords. Then there's the Doorman episode, shot pretty much entirely in black and white, which is a bold but expected move after Marvel experimented with Werewolf by Night. We follow this guy who gets superpowers and becomes Doorman. Fun fact, he's a member of the Great Lakes Avengers in the comics. And after his career fails, he gets in an accident that leaves one person missing and Hollywood turning on people with superpowers. That's a pretty bold narrative concept to explore and makes sense as to why those waivers exist instead of the waivers just existing. I also appreciate that this is pretty self-contained. Outside of Trevor and our mandatory MCU inclusion Damage Control, there aren't really references to the larger universe, and I appreciate that because it makes it more accessible to newcomers. I actually really like the scene with Trevor readopting his Mandarin persona to save Simon from being arrested. That's a true friend, and also it just felt oddly nostalgic. I'm not saying terrorism is a good thing, just that performance that he gives, Ben Kingsley, that's great. Alright, moving on to the stuff that could have been better. I wish it was released episodically. This is one of those shows that deserves to have people waiting everywhere for new episodes. Also, having clearing and damage control just felt like one of those ways to tie this into the MCU, unless they're going after mutants, in which case that would be cool to see. Lastly, I wish we gotten to see more of Simon's powers. We got one fight scene and a couple off-screen shockwaves. While I appreciate the character-focused approach, using off-screen sound cues and environmental shockwaves for major power displays sometimes felt like a budgetary constraint rather than a stylistic choice. That's not a huge complaint, it's just I wish we could have seen more. It feels like another one of those Disney MCU shows where you have to wait the whole season for the main character to suit up because they were focusing on the characters. That doesn't really bother me, but I can understand why it would bother some people. Now this next section is going to be recorded ahead of the recap coming later in the year, but I want to briefly discuss what connections I think this show could have to Doomsday as of right now. Having Simon's powers be ionic basically makes him a living battery, and the comics Doctor Doom is known for stealing powers to fuel his machines. There's also theories that Wonder Man will take the role of Molecule Man from the original Secret Wars event since his power can rearrange matter on a molecular level. Overall, everyone, this was a wonderful show. I definitely say this is a 9 out of 10, and you should definitely watch it. Ignore everyone saying the MCU is dead. This is an awesome show, man.